The universe was quiet, too quiet. For thousands of years, no new stars were born, no voices spoke between the worlds. Entire galaxies slept in silence, as if the universe itself had grown tired of life. Far away, in a forgotten corner of the Milky Way, there lived a race called the Voran. They were old, older than most stars, and they had lost something precious, belief. The Voran were masters of science and reason. They had cured every disease, built cities that floated between moons and touched the hearts of black holes. But with all their knowledge, they no longer believed in hope or dreams or faith. To them, emotion was weakness. Hope was a myth. Then one silent cycle, their deep space listening station caught a strange signal. It was weak, broken by time and dust. It was not from any known world. It was not coded like any alien language. It was a voice. The sound was old and rough, filled with emotion that the Voran hadn't heard in centuries. The voice said only one thing: "We still believe, even when the universe doesn't." The words echoed in the command hall. The Voran scientists stared at each other, their bright silver eyes flickering in confusion. Who would send such a message? What species would waste energy on emotion? The recording was full of static, but the tone of the voice was clear, human. The computers confirmed it. It came from an ancient planet once called Earth, but that made no sense. Earth was dead. Humans were gone. That world had been silent for 1,000 years. The Voran High Council gathered to discuss the mystery. Some said it was a trick, maybe a lost transmission from the past. Others said it was a trap. But one alien, Captain Voran, couldn't stop listening to the voice. He replayed the message again and again. There was something inside it, something powerful. Not a weapon, not data, but feeling, and for the first time in his long logical life, he felt curious. Voran spoke to the council. If this voice is real, we must find it. If humans are gone, then who sent it? And if they still live, we must know why they still believe. The council argued, warning him that chasing ghosts was a waste of energy. But Voran had already made his decision. Within a day, a small Voran research ship, the Luminar, was ready. It left the great crystal city of Veraxis and jumped into deep space, following the faint trail of the human signal. For many cycles, they traveled through empty systems, silent, dark, cold. They passed by shattered moons and frozen suns. Everywhere they went, they saw the same thing, a universe without hope. But still, the signal led them onward. And finally, they saw it. A small blue planet floating quietly under a dying sun, Earth. The crew looked down in silence. Scanners showed no signs of life, no active power, no communication. Just wind, dust, and broken cities. Yet the signal was still coming from somewhere on that planet. Voran stood before the viewing window, his hands behind his back. "Strange," he whispered. "Her dead world sending a living message." They landed near what looked like the ruins of an old human city, tall towers half buried in sand. The sky was red and heavy, the air thin and silent. No birds, no sound, only the soft hum of their machines. The crew began to search. They followed the signal into the ruins, through streets filled with broken glass and rusted metal. After hours of searching, they reached the source, an old radio tower, still standing covered in vines and dust. At its base, half buried, was a small metal box, a transmitter blinking weakly. It was impossible. The power cell should have died centuries ago. Yet the light still blinked, and from the speaker once every hour came that same human voice. "We still believe, even when the universe doesn't." Voran stared at it for a long time. "Who are you?" he whispered. He ordered his team to collect everything. The transmitter, the data logs, the power source. He wanted to understand how this thing still lived when everything else had died. As they packed the equipment, one of the alien engineers gasped. The power cell was new. It was not ancient human tech. It had been replaced recently. That could mean only one thing. Someone had been here. The crew froze. For the first time in their mission, they felt something strange in their chests. Not fear, but excitement. If someone had repaired the beacon, if someone had kept sending the message, then maybe, just maybe, a human was still alive. Voran looked toward the dark horizon, where the broken cities met the clouds. He could almost feel the eyes of the dead world watching him. "Prepare the scanners," he said softly. "We're not alone here." The wind blew through the ruins, carrying the echo of the human voice once more. We still believe, even when the universe doesn't. The sound traveled into the sky, rising toward the stars, reaching places where belief had long been forgotten, and somewhere deep inside every alien heart aboard the Luminar, a tiny spark began to glow again, a spark called hope. The next morning, the sun rose weak and red over the broken earth. Dust floated in the air like ashes. The alien ship Luminar stood silent above the ruins, its shadow covering what was once a city full of life. Captain Voran walked among the fallen buildings. His silver eyes scanned the horizon. No signs of life, no movement, only the quiet whisper of the wind. He touched the old metal tower where they had found the human message. It was still warm. Someone had touched it recently. Someone or something. Keep scanning, he ordered softly. If there's a human alive, we will find them. The crew spread out, searching through the ruins. They found streets covered in dust, homes broken open like empty shells, and machines that had rusted into silence. Yet everywhere they looked, they found signs of life, past life, old photographs inside shattered frames, a child's toy buried under glass, a book still open on a table, as if someone had been reading when the world ended. The Voran were logical beings built on reason and order. But walking through these ruins, something began to stir in their hearts. This world felt alive in its silence. Inside one of the half-collapsed buildings, an engineer named Rin called out, "Captain, you need to see this." Voran entered the room. On the wall, covered with dust and cracks, was a sentence written in human language. The translation read, "We believed someone would listen." The aliens exchanged looks. It was the same kind of faith they had heard in the voice message, a belief that went beyond logic, something no machine or reason could explain. Voran whispered, "These people didn't give up. Even at the end," he turned back toward his ship. "We're going deeper." The signal came from underground. "Prepare the dig units." Hours later, Luminar's scanners detected a hollow structure far below the surface, a large bunker sealed by thick metal doors. The energy readings were faint but steady. Someone or something was still down there. The crew carefully opened the entrance. The air that escaped was cold, dry, untouched for centuries. Lights flickered inside as their suits illuminated the dark hall, and there in the center of a large control room stood a small console still glowing blue. A blinking screen showed human text, automated transmission active. Rin pressed a key and a new recording began to play. A man's voice filled the room. It was the same voice from the message, old, gentle, full of warmth. "If anyone hears this..." "You are not alone," the crew froze. The message continued. "My name is Dr. Elias Grant. I am, or was, the last communication scientist on Earth. When our world began to fall, I made a promise. I would keep sending our signal, even if no one ever answered." His voice cracked slightly, as if he had been talking to ghosts for too long. Maybe we were foolish. Maybe we believed in something that wasn't real. But belief is what made us human. The room fell completely silent. Even the machine seemed to stop breathing. Voran replayed that line in his head. Belief is what made us human. It was a strange idea for him. The Voran had evolved beyond belief. They trusted only what they could see, touch, or measure. Yet this man, this fragile human, was speaking about something invisible, and it felt powerful. Dr. Grant's recording continued. "If you find this message, then you have proven us right. Someone is listening. Someone out there still cares. And that means we were never truly alone." The aliens looked at each other. For the first time, they didn't feel alone either. Rin said quietly, "Captain, this man believed in us before we even arrived." Voran nodded slowly. "Maybe that's why we came." He ordered his crew to scan the bunker. They found hundreds of data chips, recordings of human stories, music, laughter, even the sound of rain. Every chip held memories of a world that once lived and dreamed. They carried the data back to Luminar. For hours the aliens listened, to human songs, to voices telling stories of love, courage, and hope. Each sound felt like a heartbeat returning to the universe. And then, as the last chip ended, the computer displayed one final file. It was locked with a strange code. Voran systems couldn't open it. The code required human DNA. Voran stared at the screen. His mind raced. If the file was still locked, then someone with human DNA might still exist. He turned toward his crew. "This man, Dr. Elias Grant, he may still be alive." A silence filled the ship. The aliens could feel something in their hearts they hadn't felt for generations, a spark of excitement mixed with fear. Rin asked softly, "Captain, what if we really find him?" Voran looked out the window at the ruined planet below. Then he said, "We will meet the last human, the one who made the stars speak again." The ship's engines hummed as they prepared for a deeper search. Outside, the wind blew across the empty earth, carrying the last echo of Elias Grant's voice. We believed someone would listen. This time someone did. And for the first time in centuries, the aliens began to believe too. The alien ship Luminar floated above the dead earth, its silver wings shining faintly under the pale red sun. Inside, the air buzzed with quiet energy. Every screen, every sensor, every heart was focused on one question. Was Dr. Elias Grant still alive? The human message had changed everything. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was hope. Captain Voran stood before the main screen, staring at the map of Earth. Old cities were marked in grey, oceans in dark blue, and at the center of it all, a small glowing point deep in the mountains. That's where the DNA signal came from. That's where they might find him. "Set a course for the northern ridge," Voran ordered. We move now. The ship cut through the dusty sky, leaving a trail of light behind. Below, broken highways curved like skeletons. Forests had turned to ash, and rivers had dried into long, empty scars. Yet even in this death, Earth looked beautiful, ancient, peaceful. Rin, the youngest of the Voran crew, stared through the window. "How could they live here?" he asked quietly. "So fragile, and still they built all this." Voran didn't answer. He was thinking the same thing. Humans were small, soft creatures, but somehow they had left an echo that reached across time and space. After several hours, Luminar reached the mountains. Snow still covered the peaks, untouched for ages. The scanners detected a metallic structure hidden beneath the rock. The captain's voice was calm but firm. "Land near the entrance. Stay alert." The ground trembled as the ship touched down. The crew stepped out, their suits glowing faintly under the thin sunlight. The air was cold and dry, their breath turning into mist. At the base of the mountain, they found a massive door made of steel. Symbols were carved into it, human words half faded but still readable. "Hope sleeps here." The words sent chills through everyone. They began cutting through the door with plasma tools. It took hours, but finally the metal gave way with a deep echo that rolled through the valley. Beyond it lay a dark tunnel, long, silent and cold inside. Their lights revealed walls covered with drawings, hand-painted images of stars, planets and faces. Children's drawings, little messages written in shaky handwriting. "We'll meet again someday. Keep believing. If you find this, you are not alone," Rin whispered. "They really thought someone would come," Voran replied softly. They were right. As they moved deeper, the tunnel opened into a large underground chamber. Machines lined the walls, still powered by faint blue light. In the center stood a glass pod surrounded by wires and glowing tubes. Inside the pod was a man. His face was pale, his hair silver and thin, but his chest rose and fell, slowly, steadily. He was alive, Rin gasped. "It's him! It's Elias Grant." Voran stepped closer. His eyes filled with something he didn't understand. Awe, respect. They scanned the life signs, stable, though weak. A voice suddenly spoke from the console beside the pod. It was mechanical but full of human tone. "This is Dr. Elias Grant's life preservation system. Do not disturb. He is in stasis. He will awaken if belief returns." The aliens stared at each other. "Belief?" Voran repeated. "What does that mean?" The console blinked and showed another message, a video file labeled "To Whoever Listens." Voran pressed play. A hologram appeared. Dr. Grant himself, younger, alive, smiling. "If you're seeing this, then I've been asleep a long time," he said. "I don't know who you are. Maybe human, maybe not. But if you found this place, it means you listened." He paused, looking straight into the camera, as if he were looking directly into their souls. "We sent our voices into space because we believed someone would care. Even if our bodies failed, our belief would not. Hope is a living thing. It doesn't die, it waits for someone to find it." The image flickered, then ended. Voran stood frozen. These words, "Hope is a living thing," echoed in his mind like thunder. Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped loudly. A new signal at movement above ground. Something was approaching fast. Rin checked the readings. "Multiple energy signatures, Captain. They're closing in, that's not human." Voran turned sharply. Who else could be here? The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The mountain rumbled as if waking from a long sleep. From the darkness above, strange machines began descending. Robotic drones, old military units still active after all these centuries. Earth's ancient defense system, still protecting the bunker. Defensive mode. Voran shouted. The aliens drew their plasma rifles. The air filled with sparks and light as the drones attacked. Explosions rocked the chamber. Metal clashed against energy shields. Through the chaos, Voran shouted to his team, "Protect the human. Don't let anything touch the pod." They fought bravely, covering the fragile glass chamber with their bodies. When the last drone finally fell silent, the air smelled of smoke and dust. Rin looked around, shaking. "Captain, we almost lost everything." Voran turned to the sleeping human inside the pod. He whispered, "Not yet. His story isn't over." He looked at the hologram again, at Elias Grant's smiling face. "If hope waits for someone to find it," he said softly, "then maybe we were the ones it was waiting for." Outside, lightning flashed across the dying sky. The aliens had come to find a man. But what they found instead was faith. The underground chamber was quiet now. Only the soft hum of machines and the faint rhythm of a heartbeat filled the air. The battle was over, but the aliens didn't feel victorious. They felt something deeper, something they didn't even have a word for. Hope. Captain Voran stood beside the glass pod where Dr. Elias Grant slept. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark light. Rin and the rest of the Voran crew worked to stabilize the systems that had protected Elias for so long. The machines were old but still strong, like the man inside them. Voran whispered, "He has waited centuries for someone to listen." Rin nodded, his voice low. "Captain, what do we do now?" "We wake him," Voran said simply. The aliens carefully reconnected the power lines and activated the console. The screens lit up, showing human letters they had learned to read. The revival sequence initiated. Steam filled the room as the pod opened with a soft hiss. The air smelled of metal and age. Inside, the old man's eyes flickered open. For a long moment, no one moved. The aliens, tall silver-skinned beings from a distant world, stared at the last living human. And the human, fragile, pale yet alive, looked back at them with tired but kind eyes. Dr. Elias Grant tried to speak, but his voice was weak. "You came. You really came." Voran stepped forward and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect in his culture. "We heard your message," he said. "Across galaxies." "Across centuries." "We heard you." A soft smile appeared on Elias's face. Then humanity was right. Someone was listening. They helped him sit up, connecting tubes to help him breathe. His eyes studied the aliens with curiosity and warmth. "You're not from Earth," Elias said softly. "No," Voran replied. "We are Voran. We've found your world empty. But your voice, it changed us." Elias chuckled weakly. "Changed you? I'm just a man who refused to give up." "You don't understand," Voran said. "Your words made us feel. We had forgotten what that meant. We stopped believing long ago, in everything. But your message made us remember." The old man closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. "Then maybe that was my purpose," he said. "Not to save my world, but to remind another why belief matters." The crew listened in silence as Elias spoke, his voice slow but full of life. "Humans destroyed themselves with fear and pride," he said. "But in the end, a few of us kept hope alive. I sent the message not because I thought someone would answer, but because I believed someone could." Rin tilted his head. "But why? Why believe in something you couldn't prove?" Elias looked up at him with gentle eyes. "Because belief is what makes life worth living. We can't see the wind, but we feel it. We can't touch the stars, but we dream of them. That's what belief is." The room fell silent again. Even the machines seemed to pause. Voran felt a strange pressure in his chest. It wasn't pain. It was warmth. He realized it was the same feeling he'd had when he first heard the human message. That strange, impossible spark. Hours passed. Elias told them stories of Earth, of oceans, laughter, children, music. The aliens listened like children hearing legends for the first time. For them, emotion was new, dangerous, beautiful, and real. When the power began to fade, Elias's breathing grew slower. Rin checked the systems nervously. "His body is failing, Captain." "We can't save him." Voran kneeled beside the human. "You gave us hope," he said quietly. "Now let us help you." Elias smiled faintly. "No, don't fear the end. Every life ends. What matters is what you leave behind." He reached out, placing his trembling hand on Voran's arm. "Promise me one thing. Anything. Carry the message forward. Don't let the universe forget that even in darkness." Someone believed. Voran's voice broke slightly. "We will. I promise." Elias looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, "Then my work is done." His eyes closed. The heartbeat on the monitor slowed, and then stopped. The room was silent once again, but it wasn't empty. Something invisible filled the air. Something that couldn't be measured or explained. Faith. Rin wiped the condensation from the glass and whispered, "He's gone." Voran looked at the still body of Elias Grant, the last human, and said softly, "No, humans never die when someone remembers them." He turned to his crew. "Prepare the ship. We're taking his story to the stars." They gently closed the pod, sealing it with honor. As Luminar lifted off from the mountain, the sunlight broke through the clouds, shining on the ruins of Earth for the first time in centuries. The alien captain looked down and whispered to himself, "We came searching for life, but we found belief." The ship disappeared into the sky, carrying not just the last human's memory, but the very thing humanity had always given the universe: hope that never dies. The stars were quiet, but not as empty as they used to be. Across the galaxy, a strange new feeling began to spread, a spark that no technology, no machine, and no war could erase. Captain Voran watched from the bridge of the Luminar as Earth disappeared behind them. The blue planet, broken, silent, and lifeless, was now something more. It was a symbol. Inside the ship, data drives stored every story, every song, every voice recording of Dr. Elias Grant. The last human's memory had become their most precious treasure. "Do you think anyone else will believe?" Rin asked softly. Voran looked at the stars, stretching endlessly in every direction. "They will," he said. "Faith has a way of traveling farther than light. And humans. Humans knew how to believe. As the ship crossed into deep space, they began visiting alien worlds. Worlds where civilizations had lost hope. Worlds where art, music, and dreams were considered useless. The Voran shared Elias's stories. They showed recordings of human laughter, the sound of rain on Earth, a child's first words, the courage of a world that refused to give up. Everywhere they went, beings who had stopped believing began to feel something stir in their hearts. A young alien child on a distant planet pointed at the stars and whispered, "I want to be like them. I want to believe." And the adults around her, some who had lived for millennia without hope, felt their chests tighten. Something long forgotten had returned, the courage to dream, the strength to hope. Back on Earth, the ruins slept silently. The mountains, the deserts, and the oceans kept Elias's memory hidden beneath dust and time. But the signal he had sent out so long ago still floated into space, faint and steady. It was a beacon, not of technology, but of faith. The humans were gone, but their spirit had become immortal. Voran stood at the bridge window, gazing at the planets spinning in the distance. He thought about the first message they had received. "We still believe, even when the universe doesn't." At that moment, he understood. It wasn't just a message. It was a gift, a spark planted in the hearts of those who had forgotten how to hope. "We will carry it forward," Voran whispered. "We will make the universe remember." The ship traveled to a distant world where war had destroyed every city. The aliens shared the stories of Earth and Elias Grant. Slowly, people began to rebuild. Slowly, hope returned. On another planet, artists painted murals of a blue world in the stars. Children learned the songs of humans they had never met. And across galaxies, civilizations that had given up began to dream again. Elias's voice echoed in every corner of space. It was not just words. It was belief made real. "One voice can light a galaxy. One belief can save a universe," Voran said to his crew, and they knew it was true. Years passed. The story of the human who made aliens believe again became legend. In alien schools, children learned about the courage of a species that had long been gone. In quiet corners of the galaxy, beings whispered the words Elias had spoken. If anyone hears this, know that you are not alone. We still believe. The signal traveled farther and farther, riding on waves of light and time. It reached worlds that had never dreamed of hope. It reached hearts that had been cold for eons. And somewhere, in the darkness between stars, a spark of life flickered. Back on the Luminar, Voran looked at the stars and thought of Earth. The planet was empty, but it was no longer silent. Its story was everywhere now, alive in the hearts of aliens, remembered, cherished, and spreading across the galaxy. He smiled. For the first time, he understood something the humans had always known. Belief is stronger than death. Hope can outlive entire worlds. One human can change the universe. And in that moment, the Voran captain felt the impossible truth settle in his heart. The last human had not just survived, he had won. The stars shimmered brighter that night. And for the first time in centuries, the universe felt alive. The story of Elias Grant and the humans of Earth became legend, not of power or conquest, but of faith, courage, and hope that could never die. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of time and space, a small voice continued to whisper, "We still believe." Even when the universe doesn't, the stars listened. The universe remembered, and life believed again. The end.